Hey, Mama! If you're looking to have a deeper relationship with Jesus and searching for a community of Christian moms, I'm so glad you are here. I'm a Christian wife and mom who is passionate about helping mamas finally let go of the mom guilt and learn to live loved. I want to help mamas see that they are truly and perfectly loved, even, especially in motherhood. Welcome back to the Live Loved Mom podcast. I'm Cindy, your host. I'm a wife, mom, and lover of Jesus. Let's dig into God's Word together and get encouraged while we're on this journey of motherhood. Let's learn some parenting tips and mom hacks and learn how to raise our kids God's way. So, grab your coffee, listen on your drive to work, or maybe put that forgotten load of laundry back to wash again. Let's tackle mom guilt together and learn to live loved. Welcome back to the Live Love Mom podcast. Today we have a special guest, a sister in Christ. Diana Rice is a life counselor, certified integrative mental health professional, and host of the Holistic Counselor podcast. She's a wife of 30 years, a mom of one, and a bonus mom of 3. So she definitely understands the beauty and challenges of being a mom and a stepmom. Diane, just tell us a little bit about you, about what you do as a holistic counselor, and what is the difference between a regular counselor and a holistic counselor?
Wow. Let's see. The question was what I do. I actually try to empower the human into understanding who they are holistically, which means by mind, body, and spirit. Some people come to me and they don't understand the spiritual part of things. And so, as a licensed therapist, I have to stay ethical and take them in and do what I was taught to do. Holistically, I'm in private practice now. Most of my career was alternative high schools. And I worked in Broward County alternative high schools with adolescents. And in 2020, after a lot of prayer, after a lot of push from God, keep telling me, when I'm alone in prayer and you feel that the Holy Spirit moving, and sometimes it's very uncomfortable and you don't want to do it because you're like, no, I already got enough to do here. Right. And so that's how Through the Valley therapy was developed. And so holistic, the certified integrative mental health professional part of me is where I've really learned and researched from alternative methods like acupuncture or Ayurvedic medicine, or understanding that we live in a huge, beautiful world that the Lord has made, and to understand different aspects of that world in order to bring it into practicing holistically. So it's everyone has a different thought process that come into my online therapy, because I'm an online therapist for the state of Florida. And then I have Transform Mind Consulting and Coaching, which is worldwide, and where I train psychoeducational training and stuff. And then I have my podcast. I was into psychology ever since I was at Crystal Lake Middle School in Mr. Tillman's class in Broward County. And that, yeah, because I come from a place of, let's say, unhealthy, and that's why I felt safe at school. That's where my heart breaks now, because many people don't feel safe at school, and that's where I didn't feel safe at home. And
Wow.
so, yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit about that, about maybe why you didn't feel safe at home and why school was a safe place for you.
Well, listen, this is something I've learned in my own therapeutic process, and especially with my walk with the Lord. I've been walking with God since 2000. And before that, let me tell you, I know who Jesus is. Like, I was raised Catholic, right? And I remember the nuns in New York City telling me I put this bloody white man on a cross. And I'm like, who is this guy? It's just like a lot of guilt and shame from the 70s. And
Wow. Yeah.
so, and then at home, at times I've lived with my Puerto Rican side. I'm half Colombian and half Puerto Rican. And when my father was in the picture, when you come from a place where you don't have a lot of resources, there's situations that happen to you. And, as a child, I probably saw things that I shouldn't have seen as a kid. Because now when I think, I already raised 4 kids and then I have 6 grandchildren. So it's like,
Wow.
looking at that going, oh, I would never want that for any. And I think that made me a great preschool teacher because I was a preschool teacher for about 10 to 15 years in that arena while I was going to school at night
Ah.
to get my master's degree, like one class
Wow.
at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
beautiful.
so growing up in a Latin culture in the 70s, and then my mom became a single mom when I was in about second grade. She came with her own trauma from a different
Mm,
country. And what
yeah.
happens is we're all in survival mode. And have you ever heard of the ACE test or the ACE score, adverse childhood experience?
Yes.
Yeah. And so like now that I'm a practitioner, a therapist and everything and a holistic counselor, these are the tools that I utilize that have helped me to understand what was happening in my system because we could label it. But as a child, I had a mother who was working hard to, I respect that now. I can love her and hate her at the same time because it was a lot of pain. I was by myself, her only
Mm,
child. She's at work all the time. I'm on the streets of Queens, New York, on the streets.
wow.
By the time I was probably, I would say 9 years old, I was smoking cigarettes and hanging out with older teenagers, seeing things that I shouldn't have seen, seeing
Yeah.
adult things. And then she would come home and expected a lot of things from me. I was the one who's able to speak English. This is like a second generational thing. I'm not a
Yeah.
first generation, but second generation. A lot of my clients who come to me that are, because I understand it, it's like the pressure of that. So you have to grow up. You're
Right.
like looking at the bills and you're looking at this and you have to do this because you're the one who knows the language now,
Right. So you had to
right?
grow up fast and be the
Real
one to like
fast.
facilitate because she didn't speak the language. I think a lot of moms can relate to that, right? Like having some trauma in their childhood. How do you think our past traumas affect how we deal with motherhood now and how we parent our own children?
Well, and this is something that I've been in this rabbit hole now probably for about 2 years with internal family systems. And I just got introduced to someone named Dr. Don Wood, who has a book called Emotional Concussion. I just had him on my show, and the show won't come
Oh,
out till next year. But it's understanding with internal family systems, right? We have these parts of us. And how Dr. Don Wood puts it is that we have these like emotional concussions because right now we are so TikTok brained out with everybody having everything and
mm,
we mental health everything and therapize everything. And some people are either turned off of it all completely and don't respect it. And other
right.
people are so into it and they get stuck in it. Does that make sense?
Mm,
With being a mom right now, and if you're hearing my voice, just sitting in and becoming a curious observer of yourself. And it's a scary place because we live in a society and a culture that says do, 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 do. And then when you're a mom, oh my, I
you
remember,
lived
especially
it.
when
Yeah.
I became a Christian when I was 29. So, but I became a bonus mom when I was 23. And so many years, but I was going to church and everything, and I was learning different concepts of it all depends on the which flavor of Christianity you're in. And
Mm,
people forget that too, because we want to feel safe in our system and to be right. And so the trauma from childhood, if we have had emotional concussions, I like putting it that way, or these parts that get activated, is
mhm.
to realize why. Because sometimes what I've seen happen, especially as a preschool teacher, is you have these different personalities coming, and sometimes these personalities can remind you of certain situations. Sometimes an
Yeah.
unhealed wound, because that's what
Hmm.
it is, an unhealed wound will come up. And then
And
you're
you get
like, why
tricked.
say that? Yes, you get
Yeah.
activated in your system and you're trying to
Hmm.
figure out why. And we don't take time to figure out the why behind it. And
Mm,
so, and then we feel bad. Or it's also, listen, every single one of us have been raised by a village. I don't care where you are in the world. We're all raised by a village. And to me, what I love about being a Christian and focusing on Jesus Christ and his word, his living word, is to understand the spiritual part first. I always start with my clients with Psalm 139, that you're
mm,
fearfully and wonderfully made,
yeah.
right? And then at the end, what that psalm says is to search my heart and know my anxious thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the beginning to me of the healing process. And it's a process. Everybody wants a quick fix. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to not feel anything, or they're like, it's so many layers, Cindy. It's so many
Mm-hmm.
layers.
Yeah, and no, I love that you said that because I feel like sometimes, especially for me and my background and my culture, when I think about our feelings and actually sitting down in them and processing them, it's not culturally, it's not something that I grew up doing. So this is like a new concept to me that, I recently started doing myself, but it is so important to take that time and actually process those emotions and sit in your feelings. And really, I think for me, what has helped me is like allow God to be in that process with you. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do love that you said that, that sometimes we just keep moving on. We just
But
don't even think about it and just keep going.
yeah, what happens is if you ignore these situations, right, they will stack up. It
Mm,
stores in your nervous system. And if we
yeah.
understand science, which I love studying neuroplasticity and understanding how your body works, sometimes there are people are like, oh, I have a headache. I have a headache. I get migraines. But what if that migraine is trying to tell you that it's an emotional wound that you're not dealing with, or lower
Wow.
backache, or
Mm-hmm.
IBS, or that's the holistic part. And
Mm-hmm.
in my, and this is what I say a lot is that we're all a biology, a psychology, and a theology.
Mm.
And to
Wow.
understand those three parts of you is really important to become who God created you to be at this time on earth. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't take the time. And then let's throw in how we see ourselves as females and
Mm.
motherhood. That's a
Yeah.
lot of flipping guilt and shame. And I have to continually remind the woman in front of me that guilt and shame comes from the world. Conviction comes from God. It's two
Right.
different things.
Because the enemy wants to keep us like trapped, like we get into these cycles of like, oh, you're the worst. How could you do this? How could you have yelled? How could you have done all of these things? Right. And we just keep playing these soundtracks over and over in our head. Truly, the Lord wants us to live in freedom. He doesn't want us to be bound by shame and guilt all the time. I love that you pointed that out. I want to take the conversation a little different and talk about how do we deal with, because I feel like right now in our world there's just so much that we're seeing, right?
Mhm.
We're just seeing violence all the time, and for me as a Christian, I can say I am well aware that this is not just what we see with our naked eye. I'm well aware that there's a spiritual warfare that is happening outside of these things. But at the same time, it still affects us as human beings, especially as moms when we have kids that are
Yeah.
the ages of those kids that are experiencing school shootings. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Or maybe we have older kids that have witnessed somebody getting murdered. Like this is just on another level.
Yes.
So what advice would you give like moms right now? How do they deal with that and also balancing challenging parenting our children in this time and in this moment where there's so much tension and heaviness, I guess I would say.
It's like a suffocation. And I get it
Yeah.
because remember, I have six grandchildren. I love them all.
No.
I love my children. But it's when that worry comes, right? It's what do we do with that? We're
Mm,
allowed to have all of our emotions. And
mm,
that's what you said before is to process it. What happens is we choose to ignore it because
yeah.
it's uncomfortable.
Ooh.
And we got to remember something. If we are believers, understand this. It was a lot worse back in the day. We think it's
Mm,
pretty bad now, but in the
yeah.
time of Nero and the time, I mean, we had gladiator stuff, people getting eaten. So, like, we have to see, I like the both, like, and, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we get to put our brain, our energy into whatever we choose. That's the free
Right.
will. And
Mm-hmm.
we have free will, and it's questioning what am I doing with my five senses?
Mm,
I mean, think about it. These are basic things that I had to teach in alternative high schools. Think about that the clientele that I worked with for a long time.
fine. Yeah.
Alternative high school means most of those students were kicked out of public schools. It's hard to get kicked
Yeah.
out of a public school. Or they chose to come to the alternative school because that was their last, like, they didn't like the bigger 2,000, 3,000 kids, or their
Mm-hmm.
grades were terrible, or it was just like a place where people would come and then leave, or they got out of the Department of Juvenile Justice. So I had to come up with ways to really process these heavy, and that's how I learned neuroplasticity. Well, one of the reasons I learned neuroplasticity and the ACE score and understanding the Black and Brown community and what was happening in my own system. Because guess what? I would see the young Latin girl with the single mom, and I would get
Mm.
countertransference,
Yeah. Wow.
you
Because
know?
you see
And
yourself and you see your mom. Yeah. Mm.
yeah. And so, and then I had to work with the parents and everything. But what we do now is we have to get back to the basics of what God gave us. And that's in the book of Genesis, honestly. Think about scientifically how science is starting to catch up with what we know in the Word of God. It's like
It's
when I think about
insane.
it, right?
Even though with the neuroplasticity, I'm like, well, the Bible tells us to renew our mind. Like, so this isn't anything new. You know what I mean? Like
No.
the word of God was already telling us that. But yeah,
Yes.
I
And
love that you're
that's
pointing that out.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. So it's like understanding how much, and it's being a curious observer without shaming and guilting yourself. The inner critic, we all have an inner critic, especially those that come from a high ACE score. And let me repeat what an ACE score is. It's a free online. I mean, if you want to put it in the show notes, Cindy, it's a free
Yes,
online where it's 10
definitely.
questions that medical professionals should be asking, but it depends on who your doctor is and the insurance models. And I'm not going to keep going on that, but it's to understand if you have a score that's higher than a 4, that goes to show you might, I don't want to say you will because I'm not the Lord, but you
Right.
might have higher, diabetes, heart situations,
Mm.
just certain situations,
You're
mental
more
conditions.
likely. Yeah.
You're more likely. But I want to reiterate because a lot of people come in with this like, oh my gosh, here's my genetics. But I have to let you know the genes are the bullets, the environment's the trigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And that's not my quote.
That's
I
really
got that.
good.
Yeah,
No,
that
no,
I got
no.
that a long time ago from somebody.
Expand on that a little bit because I would love for the moms to really understand what that means.
Okay.
Like it's not a death sentence that you have those genes.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So it's basically understanding that we all have a genetic component. And I truly believe every human being, because of the fall of man, has a genetic component of a physical ailment or a mental thing. All right. And I know there's a lot of people like, oh, no, I'm not crazy. It's everybody else. And that to me, then that's narcissistic traits. But I'm not even going to go there because I can't. But it's understanding like, okay, we have these things, but it doesn't mean that we're stuck in them. We might, listen,
Mm,
we have to question things because sometimes what happens, we see like, say, diabetes, right? Well, grandpa had it, mom had it. But it's
right.
also understanding like, well, did things shift and change? Did we stop eating those certain things? Like, I know as a Latin girl, I grew up with rice and beans. I don't even
Right.
touch rice and beans hardly anymore,
Mm,
and not because it's bad. It's understanding what your system, that's how unique you are. You're a thumbprint, right? You have your own
mm-hmm.
unique thumbprint, your own biology, psychology,
Yes.
theology. And so you taking the time out to understand you and the power that you do have. Because what happens is we get so overwhelmed that we think we have no power. In our Christian community, we give Satan way too much
Mm,
credit. I'm sorry.
mm,
And when I hear
yeah.
that, I'm just sitting there like, are you flipping kidding me? Really? No. God is Jesus.
Yes.
If we have Jesus, then, but what I've seen in our culture, in our Christian culture, is that there's many people, there's a lot of wolves in shepherd's clothing. That does a lot of damage, Cindy.
Yeah.
And that's what I work with a lot. Like God is bringing me a lot of young people. I'm saying 25 to 35 more than anything. I don't see adolescents anymore, but a lot of them come in with, I'm trying to help them disentangle their trauma from their faith because they're wanting to
Mm. So
deconstruct
it's like
fully.
a lot of church hurt
Yes.
that they've wow.
Right. And yeah. That's hard.
Yeah, no, it is. Can you go back? Because I think you were starting to say something about Genesis that, we have to go back to the basics
Hmm.
and that, from the
The
basics, which is
science,
in Genesis. Yeah.
right?
So yeah, can you go ahead and
Yeah, the natural aspects of things. Well, think about this, right? He started with the earth. He talks about the trees and the seed bearing trees. He talks about
Mhm.
light, natural sunlight. He made that big, beautiful sun that's out there. And we all, I mean, we've demonized it to a place where it's like so bad. And it really isn't. If you really think about the sun, it's not, I'm not going out telling you to go out there for 5 hours straight between the hours of
Right,
10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and burn yourself. But how much sunlight are you getting? That's what I'm talking
right.
about. Think about the nutrients. What are we made out of? If we believe the book of Genesis and the first human being, he took
The
the
earth,
dirt, the
dust.
earth. Why else do we need iron and magnesium and all these elements, minerals? I mean, it
Mhm.
makes sense to me. It makes sense to my brain. I don't know if it makes sense to your brain, but
Yeah,
you
no,
see,
definitely it does. Yeah,
breath
yeah.
work. We do not breathe in this society or cult. We don't take time to breathe correctly. Those in other cultures that take their breath, especially like that's a thing we can learn from traditional Chinese medicine and yoga and stuff like that. I'm not talking about going into those religions. I am talking
Hmm.
about that God made everything good and we can learn from other cultures. And that's a thing that I think our westernized society has gotten so narrow-minded on that we think we're the right way.
Hmm.
Okay? And that's something that I learned. Like my grandma was an herbalist in Colombia.
Hmm.
And my other grandma, I'm going to say it, was a Santeria medium.
Hmm.
And so that's a
Wow.
whole different aspect of things. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I was taught different things of like, wait, you can get this herb and this plant and put it
Hmm.
together and it's healing. And the reason why we don't utilize that because you can't make money off of it because God made it and it's free.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I think I kind of grew up the same way because in Haiti we use a lot of teas. Like for everything, there's a tea that you can drink. Like you
Yeah,
have a
bush tea.
cold, diabetes, like it's so many
Hmm.
whatever ailment that you are dealing with.
Right.
My mom or family member or whatever would be like, hey, just boil this leaf and drink it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I wish I knew more about it, but yes, like herbalism is well used in other countries, especially in my culture in Haiti. So I agree with that there are these just natural things that we can do and they're free because this
It's free.
breath work is free. So I love that you're mentioning these because these are things that we could use to regulate our own system, right? But also to help our children too, like regulate their systems. I would say like, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna, to bring it back to what you asked before. What I see a lot is dysregulated parenting in their kids because it's an energy exchange. Right now. We are exchanging energy. I mean, look what happened before you press record. That's an
Oh my
energy
gosh.
exchange, right? We are
Yes.
all in an energy exchange. And that is
Hmm.
why what I see more than anything is a lot of dysregulation of the nervous system. You have to
Hmm.
understand that. And that's where, because in the midst of 2020, let me tell
Hmm.
you, a lot has shifted and changed in our whole culture, our whole society, our
Yeah.
whole world. I mean, it's still like, it's a lot that's the heaviness that you feel, right? That's an
Hmm.
energy that we're feeling. And I know like a
Right.
lot of people think the word energy is like, oh, woo woo, new age. And I'm like, no, no. Understand science. If you could
Yeah.
understand science, right? And how molecular energy and our mitochondria and stuff like
Hmm.
that, and
Right.
so, how do we help regulate the system? How are you regulating your system when something comes up, right? And then all of a sudden, you it comes out and you hurt your children by accident because that's what it
Hmm.
is. Like I get
Yeah.
it. Remember, I was a 22 years old, met my husband, 23, got married, and I was raising
Yeah.
three kids that I
Yeah.
love. I fell in love with them. I fell in
Oh.
love with my three step kids, bonus kids, and then I had my own. And that's a scary place for us women
Yeah.
because we are now responsible not to harm or mess up this little human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a heaviness on us moms.
Yeah.
And how are you, you know, helping with the ability to like not, first do no harm.
Yes.
So,
That's Yeah, no, it's so true. And I love that you said that we need to regulate ourselves so
mhm.
that we can in turn, because there is like an exchange and you can see it. Like, even if you don't believe in the whole energy thing, right, with spirituality and however other religions might use it, but we
Mhm.
could see it because we know that when we're scared, our children get scared. So we can see that exchange of energy happening. So yeah, I do agree that we do need to learn to regulate our own systems so that we can in turn be able to pour into our children. You know what I mean? I was going to ask one more question before I ask you to share a testimony, and it's how do we approach or talk to our children about what is happening. You know what I mean? Especially if we have older children. Like my son is 7, so I just try to like keep his innocence and not even like allow him to be into that or see any of that. But, I'm thinking as he gets older, like we're gonna have to have conversations about it. We're gonna
Yes,
have
you.
to talk about it. So, do you have like any, I guess, advice or pointers of how to bring it up to our children?
There's age appropriate Christian resources out there. I just interviewed a woman that talks all about sex. She was a public health advisor and she was a missionary with her pediatrician husband in, is it Nicaragua? I forgot because I interview so many people, but it is age appropriate because there's so many different things out there and we don't want to talk about it. I know for me as raising the kids, my mom never talked about big time things, right? I learned
Mm-hmm.
about sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a word that if someone's listening, like, oh, I'm not going to talk to my
Oh,
7 year
no.
old about that or my teenager, because nobody ever talked to us about it or no, talked to me. And guess where I learned it from? 9 years old, porn was
Outside.
introduced to me. Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. And so you got to understand, like, if they're not going to learn it from you, they're going to learn it from the streets or their schoolmates.
yeah.
And especially now, if you might not give your child a phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the child next to them might have the phone. And this is the one thing when I did homeschool my youngest for a few years, and people were like, oh, you're sheltering. I'm like, no, I'm filtering. There's a
Mm,
difference between filtering and sheltering. Sheltering is what I see quite a few of my clients come out of. Like I have quite a few homeschoolers that are now got thrown into the wolves of the world. They were in a strong Christian environment, but they have questions and no
mm-hmm.
questions were never answered. And now they're being
Mm-hmm.
answered by the schools, by the world, by the phone because they're free now. I mean, they're adults.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
so to me, it's super important to get the resources, and there are out there, and to have the difficult conversations, age appropriate, but to
right.
have it open. Like, I remember sitting around, my husband did not know what to do because remember, I came in and I was learning, I have a AA in early childhood education. And I'm like, well, we got to talk about stranger danger. And why?
Yeah.
He's a few years old. Well, 13 years older than me. And
Oh,
he's
wow.
just like, nobody ever talked to me about that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, we need to teach this and learn this and say, and have open dialogue. Have your home be a safe space. Even if you don't
Yeah.
like if something's like activating in you, you're going to have to ask the question, why? Why are
Mm,
you being activated? Is it because it's uncomfortable? Is it because you have unhealed wounds from that time frame? Is it because you don't know how? And it's okay that you don't know everything because that's a thing I see in our culture is the
yeah.
pride. It's a
Mm,
big pride thing. And so you're going to either pass on that pride to the next generation and they're going to
mm-hmm.
learn from other places and spaces, or you're going to learn how to have emotional maturity,
Hmm.
social emotional learning, and teach your kids. Or and it's not too late. Like I'm still learning. My youngest is going to be 27. I'm still learning stuff to help with my grandkids now.
Yeah.
So,
It's always a learning process. And I mean, we never stop learning as we grow. And no, I
mhm.
do think that it's so important to have those age appropriate conversations. There are, certain things that, especially with my 7-year old now that I'm like, okay, I just don't want to go there yet. Like, I just want you to keep your innocence. But I do feel like at some point we will have to have this conversation. I mean, he is, a Christian young man. There are going to be difficult conversations that we're going to have. I'm trying to get the resources and learn now before I get to that point as to when to have those conversations and how to have
Mhm.
those conversations. But thank you so much for just answering those questions and just being such a wealth of knowledge for us. I do want to ask you before you go, if you could just share like a little bit of your testimony and how you came to the Lord. I mean, we heard a little bit about it that, you grew up in Catholic and your mom was trying to raise you by herself. So we kind of heard a little bit of your testimony, but I would love to kind of hear how you came to the Lord and how the Lord has changed your life.
Wow. Wow. He's still changing, right? It's
Yes,
a walk of sanctification
it
going
is.
to the ups and downs. I mean, honestly, like dark nights of the soul is a real thing. And that to me, that
Mm,
when you get through the other side, I mean, this is why I named it through the valley therapy. You got to go through the valley. So I thought I was a Christian because I knew Jesus,
mm,
honestly.
yeah,
But there's a lot of people that know. There's people that know the Bible. And I remember
right.
going to college, and I was married. I'm still married to my husband, but I started going to a church after I married him, and I was learning, and I always had questions because to me I'm like, all right, where is this Bible coming from? And just I felt this is the beauty of being raised by a single mom, because I have to see the positive as well, right?
Mm,
Because if I stick on the negative, then I'm going to get stuck there. But to me, this is what made me a strong woman, is
hmm.
that resiliency of seeing things where I love men, but I always wondered, why are we treated in a certain way? I was a cocktail waitress for a couple of years at a sports bar. I was a shooter girl. Met my husband and totally fell in, I'm going to be honest, lust, and now it's love. And then he's a Southern Baptist preacher's kid. Okay,
Wow.
so I married a Southern Baptist preacher's kid, and I'm learning this new denomination because remember, I was raised Catholic, and
Right.
so I started learning and reading the Bible. I'm like, whoa, this denomination, they actually open up the word and you kind of study it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But I always had questions. And
Mm,
finally, I'm at FAU taking women's studies. I'm getting a minor in women's studies. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take on religion, women in religion. So I'm going to study the Quran, I'm going to study the Torah, and I'm going to study the Bible. And I was going to
oh, wow.
church and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And little by little, I started studying these different books, and I'm going, wait a minute, what? Huh? And I'm like reading it in context, trying my best, asking questions to professors that are not Christians at all. Like they knew the history of Christianity as a history book. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, what? And so did this. And I'm sitting there and I keep them like, at first I was just like, no, this is a bunch of, I want nothing to do with this. I'm like, and then I would go to church, questioning all the deacons, and they're like, what do you want to be, a pastor? I'm like, no, no way. I don't want to do that. I just want to
Understand, yeah.
understand. So finally it was just, we're having a revival at the church, and I'm really deep in the word, in the Bible and the Torah and the Quran. So it's
Quran,
like,
yeah.
but then I'm realizing, I'm like, wait a minute. And I just broke down and realized, like, oh my goodness, I'm a mess. I need this man. Like when I heard John 8, right? When I was reading that, and Jesus was so, according to what I was reading, was like, wait, he brought women forward
Mm, yeah.
constantly in a
Right.
time, because I remember I'm learning the history too, in a
Mm-hmm.
time where women had no rights, treated like crap. Jesus is still around. Out of all the religions, he's the only one that claimed that he is the Son of God,
Son of God. Yeah.
right? He's the one who claimed it. No other, there's nobody out there that does that. Okay, so
Mm,
that's number one. Number two, he brought women forward. He was the first one to, the woman was the first one to be seen after he rose again, right? And so I'm sitting there like, whoa. And then when I was reading like the Beatitudes and everything else that I was
mm,
understanding, I'm like, oh my, the tenderness, because a lot of us have this thought process of God according to whatever parental figures we have. That's
mm.
one thing I've
Yeah,
noticed
that's
with
a big one.
a lot of my clients come in if they want the Christian part of it. It's like, where did you get that information that he is this like wrath? And then you start realizing, oh, well, my father was like that, or my mother was like that. Little by little, it was just that understanding who Jesus is, and I want to follow him for the rest of my life. And that's where I'm at now. And it's hard at times because people think that I have the peace that goes beyond understanding, even through
Yeah.
loss, even through pain, even through all the emotions. Okay,
Yeah.
because God made all those emotions, and Jesus Christ in the Word shows all the emotions,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so it's about following him and his ways and understanding who you are and why things rise up and what are you going to do about it, you
Yeah.
know?
I love that. No, I think that's so true that, God, Jesus really like brought women forward. Women were so marginalized in that day and time. They
Yeah.
were not invited at the table.
Nope.
They were viewed as the lesser being,
Yeah.
like and for the Son of God to reveal himself when he resurrected to a woman first.
Yeah.
It speaks volume as to what value we have as women, that we're not less than, you know what I
No.
mean? And that we are equally valued in the eyes of the Lord.
Amen.
So I love that spoke to you, and that you were somebody that actually studied like all the other religions and went through that and realized, oh no, like this is the Son of God, like he claims
Yeah.
to be, and he has just such a gentle heart, towards us, even though we're broken people, messed up
Yeah.
people that are actually in need of a savior,
That's
and he
right.
was willing to give up his life for us. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing your testimony, for just giving us such insight and knowledge too from your expertise. Just tell us what you like, your website, how we can reach you, or you're on social media, and then I'll also put it in the description as well.
You can find me at throughthevalleytherapy.com. Transform Mind Consulting. Well, it's actually transformmindcc.com. And I mean, on social media, basically through the Valley Therapy or the Holistic Counselor podcast. I don't have a website for
Yes.
that because it's under the Through the Valley Therapy. But yeah, that's where you could find me. And before I go, can I just share a poem I wrote in 2022?
Oh, yes, of course. We
All
would love
right.
to hear it.
So I wrote this book. It's called Anima Resuscitation. I forgot that I wrote it, honestly, when I didn't even put it in my thing because I wrote these two poetry books. One's called Wrath to
Um,
Riches, Justice to This is how I stayed sane when as a therapist because I was going through we were all going through a hard time. So every one of us
yeah.
have a story. But mine came out with artwork. So all the artwork you see in there is my own artwork
Oh,
along
wow.
with the words. And I did not use ChatGPT. So these are original things before ChatGPT came out.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share this with the women that are listening because to me, I
Mm,
want to encourage them and let them know that they have power in their story and that they're more than just mothers
mm,
and wives, if they're wives.
yeah.
They have a story, they have a purpose, and make sure that you're in tune with that because sometimes we get stuck in these parts of us. Like, I'm only a mom. And I remember, Cindy, vividly remember it. Like, and now that I'm with an empty nest, it's just like, I have time now. And I know a lot of you don't have time, but you need to make the time now. Okay.
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right. This is called Femininity Cocoon. I wrote it on Sunday, October 23rd, 2022 at 3:50 p.m.
Oh.
All right. A second puberty of the feminine, punished by a society of gentlemen, staying skinny as a skeleton as we continue losing estrogen.
Hmm.
Westernization of the womanizer, believing the lying advertiser in the palm of the colonizer while we become the equalizer. Urging, purging, fighting to be securely respected while our parts are being dissected. Little girls are disgustingly subjected, pornography and trafficking infected.
Hmm.
5 decades of the feminine road, trying to figure out the biblical code, cocooned in Jesus' episode as we deal with the overload, surging, emerging, on a road of soulful dreams where menopause is esteemed, where periods are not unclean, not our body, but brains are seen. Chrysalis becoming deeper, transform us into new creatures, silencing the oppressive preachers, wings drying to fly as radiant teachers. Daughters of the King, merging, disturbing the status quo.
Ah, that's beautiful.
Thanks,
Thank you
Cindy.
for sharing that. I am so looking forward to this episode going out. I
Yeah,
will definitely let you know when it goes, because I feel a pull to just try to put it out as soon as possible. I will let you know when it's gonna come out. But yeah, I
okay.
feel like it was timely. Like, like the Lord knew that, you know.
I get it,
But thank you
Cindy.
so much. Yeah.
I get it. And listen, for anyone listening, Cindy's coming on my show. I can't wait
I
for
know.
that.
And yes, the Lord has made a lot of our paths to cross. I think it's just such a beautiful thing when we are able to help each other, encourage each other, and also serve the Lord and glorify Him
Yeah.
through it all.
Through our
Thank you so much
different
for coming
talents and
on.
gifts. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. You have a great day.
You
And
too.
if you have not, could you just send me oh my gosh, a picture
No.
of yourself? Could you
Oh,
send me a
yeah.
picture of yourself so I
Sure.
could try to put the graphics together?
I will
Alrighty.
that. All right, Cindy.
Thank you so much.
All
Have a
right.
good day.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I pray that it has blessed you in some way. If you found value in this episode, or you know a mama who could use some encouragement, please be sure to share the episode with them. Would you take just a few minutes to leave a review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean a great deal to me if you could let me know what you thought of the episode. Be sure to follow us at Live Love Mom Podcast on Instagram. And if you haven't already, come join us in our free Live Love Mom community on Facebook. Let's mom alongside each other and continue to learn to live loved.